Life has a way of surprising us, and sometimes that means finding ourselves single again. But at Single Again with LFA and BARBS, we believe in embracing change and finding beauty in every moment.
Join our community of strong individuals who are ready to take action and create a life they love. Together, we'll navigate the twists and turns of being single again, finding beauty in every moment. So whether you're redefining your goals, finding new passions, or simply seeking connection, let's embark on this beautiful journey together.
Search for Single Again with LFA and BARBS on your favorite podcast platform. It's time to embrace your single again status and live a life that's lively, encouraging, and beautiful.
Single Again
with LFA and BARBS,
where your story
begins.
All right, everybody, welcome back again. The Single Again with LFA and BARB. I'm sure so far you're enjoying the conversation, and I am telling you, we are still talking about decision making because, look, I know the courage, the boldness it takes for people to decide. I mean, you just wake up one morning and you decide that, okay, I'm done. Like, it's not something that you do suddenly. It's a process. BARB, the last episode we were talking about the decision making, and I remember I did say something about me almost wanting to elope with my daughter. And I thought when I was in my marital relationship, I actually thought that I can work it out, especially being a child of God. And that's
what you're taught to do.
Yeah. Being a child of God and always having at the back of your mind, God hates divorce. It's as the sin of witchcraft that God hates divorce, and not having, at that time, not having the spiritual exposure and knowledge that God hates divorce, but God hates it more when you are a willing part in your suicide or mother in a marital relationship. It took a long time for me to arrive. And just like you, yes, physical. And I remember when we were courting, my marital relationship, my husband then, we courted for just 6 months. And I remember always telling him, and that's one of the things I told him, that I can never stand a man to even push me with his finger, just one finger. I cannot stand that. And of course, it happened. And if it happened just to us, it's fine. But it happened in the presence of the kids. And that was it for me. That was it
My
for
children
me.
were involved, yeah.
No, I would not. Because if I tolerate that, guess what I'm telling my daughter? It's okay for a man to do that to you. Yeah. I'm telling my son, it's okay for you to do that to a woman. Yeah. It's fine. Because mommy didn't say anything. Mommy could not protect herself. And something I realize is, as mothers, we are not protecting us. We are protecting our children, especially when children are witnessing it. And we have to think of the psychological, the emotional, the traumatic effect it will have on the children.
So much. Yeah.
So it is not a decision that was taken in a day. And I want to throw this out there.
Never.
For a man to go to that extent, for a man to decide that, because in my own situation, he went to the court to file for divorce. I didn't even know about it. For a man to do that, it's not something you just wake up one morning and you say, yes, I'm filing for divorce. It's something you must have been planning for years. So the decision-making process, it's not an easy one. It is a gradual decision that at the end of the day, that's going to happen, but we all have this fear. How do we overcome this fear of making that decision and taking that bold step for ourselves, our sanity, and our children?
That's the problem, isn't it? Because when you're in that frightful state, when you're in any situation that is not happy, it's not settled, it's not what you expect, the decision making is very difficult because it's not one thing. It's not you deciding, do I have rice or yam today? That's just simplistic. That's as simple as I can make it. But it's you standing in your kitchen as a woman and you need to make dinner and everything in your cupboard is calling at you. You'll go back and say, I'll wait for somebody to come and say, what do they want, what they want to eat, and then I can make it. It's something like that. So you have so much in the pot to consider. It's a decision you start, you stop, you start, you stop, you start. So this is why there's always something that breaks the back of the camel. And unfortunately, it becomes a catastrophic decision because you have waited for the worst to happen. So whether you're being pushed out of a relationship or you're actually thinking of stepping out of a relationship, it's a decision that must be made.
Yeah, it is.
And it can't be straight, and it's never generic. When not long had been separated from my husband, and my friend was leaving her husband, and she came to me, oh, I need the details of your solicitor, because I know your solicitor. I said, hold it right there. I'm first of all a child of God.
Yes.
And the lover of family.
Yes.
Me being divorced doesn't mean I expect everybody to just follow suit. So, what is your situation? Or is it just because you heard I was divorced for me too, I can do it? I need to make sure you have thought about the processes. And that is not me minimizing that person's decision, but just making sure I'm not stigmatized as just because I've stepped out, I'm probably going to have a campaign of telling everybody to go. You also go. So, because that is a very, very, very difficult, especially when there are children involved. I made that decision when my youngest was 18 months.
Wow.
So tell me how I was going to go away with 4 children, the eldest in university and the youngest at 18 months. So you tell me, how do you make that decision a very simple decision? You have to look at your situation. But the first thing to look at is what is in this relationship. Yes, there are counseling, there are people who can support you. Have you sought all of that?
Yes.
It takes two to tango.
Before you take that decision.
Yes, it takes two to tango. How did your situation get here? And these are all part of the processes that we are saying. It takes a very long time to get to that. What has started you thinking this is not working? Is it your fault? Is it his fault? Are you both doing things that antagonizes each other? Because one phrase I've always come to love is nobody marries a person they hate. Because on the day of our celebration, you were all over me. I was all over you. We loved each other. We made
we were giggling and we were laughing and we made babies together.
We made babies out of it. So if you suddenly now can't stand the sight of me or I can't stand the sight of you, something's happening.
Yes.
Do we look at that? If we're looking at it, is it because we have pinpointed the problem, but as two people, we're not really able to put our heads together? Then it breaks down. Then it's, as the law says, irrecoverable, whatever. Can't remember the phrase, but we just can't pick it up again. So if you've gone through all of that, then you've made that decision. You now need to straighten yourself and say, I'm on the other side of the door, now what? Because that side is an open sea.
Yes, it is. You can get lost. You can just get lost on that side, honestly. And honestly, I understand the pain and the pain that you experience in making that decision. Because it's not a decision you make smiling. Like I said, when I learned that my husband at that time decided to file for divorce, when I learned that he filed, he didn't tell me. I got to know by a lawyer that was advertising his business to me. Barb, if I tell you, I was dancing.
Yes.
Because it was like I was in bondage. And somebody just suddenly just decided to break the chain and let me loose. I was dancing. I was excited. I remembered when the first person that heard called me like, "Oh, we're sorry." I'm like, "No, don't be sorry for me. Just thank God for me." You see, it's a different thing if it was just the man. But when it's family, when he has a whole village behind him, and that village is traumatizing you terrorizing you and bullying you, and you feel like I am the only one. It's like one man against a whole nation. It's so scary. And then you are like, what am I going to do? How am I going to break this news to the children? It will be better. It's always better if both partner comes together and like, hey, this is not working. Let's go our separate ways. However, how do we break this news to our children?
Listen,
which I think,
they're sitting to dinner and saying, mom and dad are no longer happy together. That only happens in films.
Oh goodness, I just realized that.
Yeah, majority of the time the children find out differently. Sometimes they've absorbed it, they know the atmosphere, they see the signs. And then sometimes one parent actually starts dropping hints to the children just to be in their favor.
In my case, it was actually the father had already, even before I knew. You know, to me, I find it insulting. I find it degrading to not just me, but to that partner. And I find it so embarrassing to the child, a young child, telling an 8-9-year-old that I am no longer your mom's husband. I am only in the relationship because of you. That is so degrading. That is so embarrassing to that child. That is so emotionally disdaining, like emotionally draining to that child. How do you want that child to process it? Why don't you guys, as mature adults, sit down and make the decision? And honestly, that is what we'll be talking about in our next episode. How do we break the news to our kids? You know, because I hid that from my kid for a long time. I hid that fact from them for a very long time.
Yeah, because their age must be appropriate to understand.
Yes. And it cost me, you know. And it cost me that I hid it. And well, it was a different dynamic that I later got to find out that I shouldn't have, but I was glad I did, because it gave my children a different view and perspective. I think they learned the coping skills. But we will be wrapping up this episode here. In the next episode, we will talk about how do I break this to the children. What if the children are involved? How do I break this to them? If you don't have kids, I'm telling you, it's as easy peasy as it can be. But even then, there are other decisions you have to consider and other stuff. But when kids are involved, how do you break it to them?
Your story begins here. Single again. Single with LFA and Barbs.
Please stay tuned. Again, subscribe, share, spread the news to your friends. Go to our Facebook channel and just and join our community. It's a private community. Your privacy is secured. We make sure that everybody on that platform are single again, so that we are on the same page. We are not sharing other people's privacy if they don't want it to. So please, wherever you listen to your podcast, share, write a review, and let us know what you want us to talk about. If you have any question or concern, please feel free to let us know. Until we see you same time, take care and bye.
Bye.
Your story begins here. Single again with LFA and Babs.